All right, well, let's get rolling. Welcome to Town Hall 68, Wednesday, August 24th, 2021. This is going to be an interesting one. You have your hosts, myself, John Best. I'm the CEO of Best Innovation Group. If you haven't visited our website, it's big-fintech.com. And with me, as always, Mike Lawson, creator, host of CU Broadcast, the number one media source for information in the credit union industry, and has been that way for many, many years. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the kind words. And you're not too shabby yourself, sir.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. For this next one, so we'll get into the sponsors here. Okay, what we'll do is we'll go, I'll do the one, you do one, I'll do one, you do one.
Every other one? Okay.
Right. So I'll start. CUNA
Okay.
Councils. CUNA's coming up. We're getting ready for the Tech Ops Conference. I'm excited about that. I'm actually doing an interview with my son. Fireside chat. It's 5 things you didn't know about millennials post-pandemic.
Oh, that's gonna be good. Okay, I'm in for that.
I think so. It'll be interesting to hear what he has to say. I've not purposely not engaged him on the subject. So we'll see where he's going, what he's talking about. One of the things I thought was interesting was something that came out today, which was have you seen the advertisements for PNC Bank's low funds mode or something like that? We'll talk about it in the future one, but
Okay.
that's one I asked him about. So go to CUNA.org. You really can't go wrong with being part of CUNA and joining these meetings, particularly if you're looking for other peers who work in the same industry as you. You're up, Mike.
Indeed. All right, let's, oh my gosh. The next one, Correlation, the hottest core processor in the credit union land. They are open architecture, any vendor can work with the Keystone core there. And so gives credit unions a lot of freedom to pick and choose what fintech companies or whomever they want to work with, because everything kind of plugs and plays.
Their own stuff,
Correlation.
Mike? Don't they make their own stuff? Aren't they pushing the home banking they made?
They can make their own stuff as well, but they give you the
But they're not. That's the whole point. They're not doing it.
It's a beautiful, it's all, I mean, it's like they were doing open banking before open banking was a thing. So it's pretty cool. So Correlation, they are hot for a reason because of just what we just described they do, and fantastic people there at the company. And I've been actually working with them since day one. So it's really been a fun ride watching them grow to what they are today.
Well,
so
I went there before they even came out. I was at their office before they.
Yeah, that's right. And you were like the first keynote at their first conference as well. So that was fun too.
Yeah. My story was stay away from Mike Lawson. I think that was the whole topic.
Yes.
Member Pass is a hassle-free way to control and prove your identity quickly and easily. We're actually gonna, I'm gonna highlight Zach from Forefront. I want him to come on. He's just had amazing success with this.
Yeah.
It's an app that uses blockchain that allows the member to control their identity. More importantly, God, it's so easy to, you ever been on the phone with a credit union in their call center, and they're like, okay, well, I need to know the last 2 purchases you made. Sure, I count with my wife. There is no way. I'm like, okay, well, refresh. Let's see what happens, because I'm pretty sure you'll have 2 more new ones before I even get there. Not to mention my own Amazon habit.
I was thinking Amazon.
So my answer now is just hang on a second, and then I buy 2 things and go, okay, the first one, hit refresh. The first one should be a soldering iron from Amazon. The second one should be a Shure microphone. But it is making a lot of progress. It's powered by Bonify, all credit union owned. QSO, definitely take a look, and we see a lot of other things coming into play with these guys.
Yeah, and they just announced a partnership with Experian, I believe. So that's some big news as well. So yeah,
actually, very cool. All right, well, I don't want you to have to do your own, so I'll do yours, you do mine.
Okay.
And I've already mentioned it. CU Broadcast, go to cubroadcast.com. I mean, he puts up like 12 things a day. I don't know how he does it. I don't know when he sleeps. I don't know how he has all this time to edit all this, but the content is so important because it really underscores what I think is the superpower of the credit union industry, which is collaboration. And most of Mike's guests are other credit unions who are sharing their successes, either with vendors, without vendors, what they've done. It was definitely somewhat of the inspiration for this live show. And I was so thankful when I called Mike and he said he'd join. But if you're not already checking out cubroadcast.com, you need to go there. It definitely should be in your rotation to keep up on the latest in the credit union space.
Yeah, we just posted a story today about how this credit union was using real-time AI technology to catch a fraudster red-handed. It was like an episode of Cops, NCIS, and Mission Impossible all rolled into one. It was really fun conversation.
I'm gonna go watch that. That sounds awesome.
Really fun. Really fun.
I'd like it if your thing turned into more like there's that network, what's it called? OWN, where I'm pretty sure that network is basically how to kill your husband and get away with it. And so my wife watches it a lot, which is curious, but pretty much every show on there is, and Susie was angry. And then it ends with, and they never found the body. So
check the
great
trunk.
stuff. Check out CU Broadcast. Certainly want to watch that episode because I think AI in the fraud space, while it's always been there, is going to really ratchet up quite a bit.
And we should do a show sometime on AI wars. This kind of was revealed to me this year, how there's good AI and bad AI and how they're going to be fighting it out over the next few years. So it's,
I just was looking at a podcast where they're looking for this 911 supposed 911 victim. Her name's Sneha something Phillip, and they claim she died at the towers. And the thing is that she had no reason to be there, and maybe she did, maybe she didn't, I don't know, but they've officially kind of gone that direction. But the guy who was looking at it, he visited with the group at the there, and basically he got like 120 gig of pictures and video of, because there wasn't, believe it or not, even though it's the most photographed event in our history, there wasn't a lot of like road level pictures, like street level pictures, because the building was falling down and people were fearful.
And you run.
So what's wild about that, Mike, was he took it and he went to one company called True Face, which was interesting, and another one, I can't remember what it was, and basically took her picture and ran it through 120 gig, 477,000 faces. The platform found it did not find her.
What?
And it was picking up like face. If you set it down low enough, it was picking up creepy faces in the smoke billowing from the building. God. So you had to set it up enough to pick a face. But this tech is coming, and it's coming fast. And I do agree with you. Is that good or bad use? I'm a little afraid of True Face. They have 9 billion people's faces, and they can find you at the drop of a hat. Were you at a party somewhere that somebody took a picture that you didn't know, and you're in the background? There's another site too that they posted that I was going to post, which is a way to look yourself up. I'm going to go back and post that out there as well.
Okay.
So interesting stuff.
Cool. Should we talk about you? Big?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Innovation Group? Boy, if you want to know technology, that's the place to go. And I want to focus on voice because actually Cornerstone Advisors, Ron Shevlin, I sent you this link to this story today. He wrote a story on what was it? Oh gosh, AI and voice. That is like kind of a have-to for credit unions in their digital transformation journey. And I immediately thought about Big and your 5 voice program or your 5 voice solution. So
that's great. I did see it. I got to go read it. Whenever I see Ron Shevlin's name, I'm half concerned it's going to be like a dissertation on why I suck. Or it's going to be no, that's not true. He's fantastic, but
he's very fair.
He's definitely snarky as it is for a reason. But certainly I've agreed with him forever, and I think that technology is beginning to be even more and more and
you're right that you were there before it was something. So you guys are ahead of the curve as usual.
I tripped over an Alexa while I was at a conference and took it with me. So
did you?
But yes, we're very excited about that. We're actually getting ready to talk about some new things that we're working on. So a lot to come in the voice space.
Yes. And go to big-fintech.com for all the info. Cause all your blogs, all the podcasts, all these episodes are right there to be found along with all the technology services that you provide credit unions. So go there, check it out, and give John a shout. Good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So we have to do this disclaimer, I think. I'll read it. I haven't seen it. It says neither John nor Mike are lawyers. Wow. True. Some days John forgets to wear shoes. That's true. That's absolutely true. Or socks, or both. Wow. Please do not take anything said today as legal advice. I would agree. Would you agree with that? Yes.
Concur.
And I would also say we're not here to judge. We're just trying to report and figure out what's going on. So, and I think we're going to get into some controversial stuff because you kind of threw out a bunch of things this morning and this week. You want to take this first one?
Well, yeah, actually we're trying to get, I think there's 3 credit unions that are doing this right now. And I think one of them's Hawaii, they're Hawaii USA. Hang on a second here. I have the actual story in CU Times. that names the 3 credit unions. Let's see, a Legacy in North Carolina. Let's see here, Hawaii State Federal Credit Union in Honolulu. And what was the other one? Although Michigan, actually this one from Michigan. And there's another one, I think in Texas, that was doing the mask mandate for employees. And so this is just a hornet's nest waiting to erupt, whether you're for mask or against mask. It's
let's talk about what preceded this. So it feels like the match that lit the fuse here is the FDA approval of Pfizer.
Right.
And what I'm understanding is that much like FDA approval for the chickenpox, and other vaccines, like you can't, as I remember, when I first got here to the States, I had to go get a bunch of extra vaccines. As you know, I grew up in Germany, so I didn't get here till I was like in 11th grade. And when I got here, they were like, yeah, you can't come in because there are these other vaccinations that were not required in the German world, but are required here. And there were even more after that to play sports that I had to show them before I could wrestle or do anything else.
Right.
And so literally there was a vaccine mandate in place for schools and still is today, as far as I know. But never has there been a mandate for a non-FDA approved product. And so what's, I think, starting to pop up here is now people, particularly businesses, feel comfortable with mandating a mask now that not mandating the mask, just the mask, but also the vaccine.
The vaccine.
Either you're vaccinated or you don't, and you wear a mask or something along those lines. And so this has become kind of a new thing that's really popping up. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, it's a really hot button and it's really taken off.
Okay, so what did Michigan first do?
They mandated a vaccine, but there was a bunch of blowback. So now they
mandate a vaccine or a mask?
Vaccine and if you're not, you have to. I think it's the masks actually. And so if you wear a clear mask, you can go in because they're mandating the masks. So I need to go back and read the story in a little bit. I've been interviewing all morning, so I apologize for not knowing the specific details of this. But
I think the thing about this is that this credit union actually made it so that nobody could wear a mask into the credit union. It was an anti-mask mandate, which is what made this story interesting. And so then after the backlash, they decided they could have clear masks.
Clear masks, that's it. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So if I want to go into the branch and I don't feel comfortable not wearing a mask, they're going to turn me away. They're going to say use digital services or go through the drive-through. Okay. And I could see this bottom quote here. Masks have no place in the bank. WR wrote. I'm assuming WR is from the Michigan First Credit Union. The tellers have no clue what their intentions are. By the time they're asked to lower the mask, they're already inside. So is that something that's been happening? Have there been robberies? Do we know of any?
I haven't heard of anything like that.
Or is that preemptive, or is that something that they've experienced? I wonder.
That would be very interesting. And I've interviewed Michael Paulus. I've interviewed him before as well. He's actually a pretty good guy. So, and he's on many boards.
This decision doesn't denote being good or bad. It's
right.
I think they're trying to make business decisions, and in this case, they're concerned about the quote would indicate to me that they're concerned about being robbed or something.
Well,
Okay.
Which kind of flies in the face of what a financial institution before COVID is like. If you wear a mask, you're obviously a threat. Post COVID, if you wear a mask, you're okay. So
I remember at a credit union I worked at, we were all required to go. I can probably say which one it was. It was GTE out in Florida. And when a branch would get robbed, all the vice presidents, all the leadership would have to go to that branch that day. So if it got robbed, we'd all get in a car wherever we were, drive to that branch. And we had this one branch that was right off the interstate in Plant City on I-4. It was literally right off I-4 on your way to Disney, And people kept showing up in motorcycle helmets. They go in, which at the time wasn't super uncommon for someone to leave their helmet on, but just raise their shield.
Yeah.
Because it's just a pain to take all that off. And then
Right.
they were worried about people stealing it and leaving it outside or whatever. And they would come in, they'd pass a note, and then, man, they get it back on those really fast, not a Harley, but one of these really fast motorcycles, and then hop on I-4 would be gone, long gone before they press the button and everything. But these guys would be like so far down I-4 and, God knows where, and Apopka or whatever else in Florida. So it certainly was a concern. But wouldn't health concerns trump that to some extent? Or I don't know. I'm questioning it. And
when was the last time you were in a branch, John?
What's that? Oh, I literally will be in a branch a little bit later today. I actually frequent the Nth branch because I break my credit cards a lot. I found that the chip on my credit card just is not like me. I sound like my mom. This Facebook doesn't like me. I knew it's against me. But no, I think I blow them up when I do things with them, and I'm often tapping them or whatever. And so they have a direct issue. We had Sunday on last week. From Ann, and well, she's from Safe Harbor, but her husband was the CEO of it for a long time, and they have instant issues. So I'm constantly going there to get another card. Gotcha. That plus I like to change the pictures. I like to think of it as a little slideshow for me. I'm collecting.
Okay.
Once I get up to a couple hundred, I can just take a picture of them each individually, or make my own little flip show, one of the two. But yeah, I think that I don't know. And I'm wondering if was there a lot of staff that basically said, "Hey, we're very afraid of this. We think this is going to happen," or
my experience, because I'm a member at San Diego County Credit Union, and I was just in there a week or so ago, and I've been in there, obviously, various times during the pandemic and stuff. So, and you have to wear a mask going in there. But what they do, they have a security guard, an armed guard right there at the door, greeting you.
And you have to pull down your mask for a second.
What's that?
You have to pull down your mask for a second?
No, not at all. No, you just walk in and say, I just needed to make a deposit or do whatever you need to do. And you're like, okay, go stand in line. So it's
TSA makes you do that now. When you travel, you have to pull down your mask just long enough for them to look at your license and look at you.
Makes sense.
Interesting.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And it says that there's I guess this was somebody from H2HTH. I don't know who that is. There's no reason they can't set up a camera at the door, allows for someone to show their
That's a law firm
camera. Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know. Well, let's go on to the next slide here. And then we'll get some opinions from people. So do we mandate vaccines? And we've had this come up in our innovation club already. Nobody in our innovation club so far has mandated, but that was all a couple of weeks ago. And there was no FDA approval, right? Now, I don't remember ever having to show any vaccination cards to work at any of the credit unions that I've worked at, but I think society got comfortable with the fact that if they proved I went to high school, then I probably had to be vaccinated. It was sort of a domino system. Like, if you did this, then you would have to have this.
Right.
It's kind of the law.
It's kind of understood.
And so there's this idea that employees have a right to a safe workspace. Matter of fact, employers are responsible for providing a safe and healthy workplace. Okay. From recognized hazards likely to cause death or serious harm. So this is I guess an OSHA. It says OSH, but I'm guessing that's OSHA. Maybe it is OSH, maybe it's the whatever, but recognized hazards likely to cause death or physical harm. Can we mandate it? All right. So the EEOC said that they can require the vaccinations for its workers. Well, I will tell you, everywhere I go, even though I go in, we can go in without a mask. I've not been anywhere where the workers weren't wearing masks. Matter of fact, I just got back from Verizon. I was at a Verizon store, a dead Verizon store, getting an upgrade to an iPhone for something really cool that I'll talk about later, that I'm working on. But and everybody in there was wearing a mask. Wow. Just not the customers. And that's been the same for everything I've seen here in Colorado. Mm-hmm. But it does sound like that you can do a mask mandate, but you must provide reasonable accommodations who refuses a vaccine for religious or disability related. But that's a slippery slope too. Okay, it's like the non-smoking and the smoking, on the plane, right? Is that kind of what, I remember my dad used to sit in the smoking area in the plane, and we'd sit one row in front of him where the demarcation was. And I was like, and I was too young to know, but looking back, I'm like, we were all in the smoking section. There was no such thing as a no smoking section of a plane. I mean, do you have to divide up your call center into vaccinated and unvaccinated? I don't know. I mean, this law or whatever here doesn't seem to take into account the nature of the particular virus that we're dealing with.
Right.
But again, we're not lawyers. We don't know. So let's
and you have to provide a safe work environment. So that can bring up many arguments, as an unvaccinated worker coming to a place of work, a credit union in this case. Does that make that work environment unsafe, that this person is not vaccinated? Or what do you, or the flip side of the coin, okay, what do you do for the unvaccinated person who has to come into work and make a living? So what do you do for that person? So as opposed to the people that are already vaccinated. So it's
agreed. Wow. You know what I see? I see one of my favorite people on here who's never really on here all that often. And I'm excited because he's also one of the smartest people I know. I'm going to see if he'd be willing to talk to us about this, because he also is the CEO of a large organization that's credit union based here in Colorado. So Scott Earl, welcome. It's great to see you're here. Scott, would you mind unmuting and give us a little feedback on what Mountain West is doing? I think he just jumped. There he is. Hey, how are you?
Good to see you. I'm listening to you guys so I can figure out what to do.
I don't know if we're gonna.
You guys don't have the answers. Neither do I.
God, well, you know of all people questions. That I definitely forget to wear my shoes sometimes. So you're well aware of that.
I am.
But you're probably one of the most forward-thinking people I know. And given that you're running a organization that has a footprint in 2 different states, one of them is a very big hot zone, which is Arizona. Yeah, I'd be just curious, because Arizona actually has a governor-based mandate that you can't make anyone wear a mask. And I assume he's not far behind on you can't make anyone get vaccinated. Or they are. I don't know who the governor is, but.
The governor is Doug Ducey. And you've got it pegged pretty clearly. Honestly, from our organization standpoint, we are still feeling our way through it. We have not reopened our offices, mainly because, we've got an office in Phoenix and an office in Denver. And we've been, we don't have a lot of people coming into our office. So it's made it easy, and our staff has performed extremely well working from home. So we haven't been in a big hurry. We were going to open up right after Labor Day, and with the Delta variant, we're kind of rethinking that, and we're still in the process of trying to figure out how we develop kind of a hybrid setup for our staff. But as far as the virus itself, we are bringing our staff together for the first time since the pandemic next week for a 2-day session. And for those that aren't vaccinated, we're asking them to have a COVID test. But beyond that, that's about as far as we've gotten on.
So I'll share a little story about that. So I have a friend, and she works at a bank. She's a manager of a bank branch. And the bank branch sent a similar meeting. They said, hey, we're all going to get together, but if you're not vaccinated, you need to wear a mask. And she took offense at the tone of the email. She didn't like that the email, she felt as though the email was vaccination shaming her because she has opted not to get it, and felt like it could have been worded better. I don't know, how you do that. But that was fascinating to me, that she felt that way. And we've had a lot of chats around this talk. I know her pretty well. But yeah, isn't that interesting? That so be careful when you send your note out about those that maybe you want to maybe get somebody to write it up or do something, have it, I don't know, certified by somebody about its language or something.
Test
But it
the
definitely
tone.
offended her deeply, like more than I thought. And I read it and I didn't get offended, but I'm vaccinated and it's a different perspective, I think, but it certainly offended her.
Yeah, our email actually to our staff just went out today, so it hasn't had time to be reacted to. So now you've got me worried, John. Thanks.
I don't mean to do that. I'm just, it's the kind of thing to share that the people who aren't vaccinated really, take offense to being mandated to be different than the people that are. And that was really the crux of her argument was, well, I'm choosing not to for my own health and safety, and that I have extenuating circumstances that I believe put me in a position that I shouldn't be doing this. And so and I specifically asked her, I said, well, how should it have read? And she couldn't tell me. She couldn't give me the verbiage like, that would have not offended her. And I'm not sure there is verbiage that wouldn't have offended her, but I'm just sharing. But it's good to hear, how you're sort of still trying to figure it out, because I think everybody's in the same boat. And I think the best we can do is try to somewhat figure it out together. But I was also interested because you're in a hotspot and you also sort of have an issue where the governor, at least in one of your locations, is, I wouldn't say working against you, but it certainly is going to make it difficult for you to mandate anything like that. So yeah,
and there are some of our staff, I think, who would like to see it mandated, vaccine mandated, clearly, and there are others that feel completely the opposite. So it's been pretty interesting to try to figure our way through it. We had a management team meeting yesterday and discussed it at length, and decided that we would get back together on it next week. So
decided to kick that can down the road a little bit and see what others were doing.
After about 25 minutes of debate, we kicked it down the road. So,
well, just the next question: if you did have a management meeting, have you had any board meetings? You are made up of some of the largest and most progressive credit unions in the world. Have you heard from your CEOs? What's been the advice, or what have you seen from the Mountain West, constituents?
We did have a board meeting 2 weeks ago. It was an in-person board meeting. It was hosted at Canvas Credit Union here in Colorado. And almost all the board members attended, but we did not get into a discussion of what were they doing with vaccines.
You're a smart man, Scott.
Well,
You're a smart man. Yeah, it's fascinating. And it's troublesome because I worry that, the last thing we need in our cultural world right now is more divisive type of issues. What we really need to be doing is pulling together even more. And it's hard. It's hard in this context. Well, I really appreciate you sharing. Thanks for turning on your thing. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
I see Atchison is here, but we were able to get all the bugs out of our house, so I don't need him to turn his video on. He's good. You could tell him I said that.
All right.
I hope he heard it.
Thanks,
all right. Yeah, I got it. Well, I'm interested in hearing, I don't know if he can speak. He'll probably tell me if he can. I'm going to go to Gary real fast to find out what they're doing in Oregon. But while I do that, Kevin and Wright, if you're in our, we've had extensive discussions on this. If you're available to talk, let me know in the chat. If not, we'll skip on. There are plenty of other people to chat with, but Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. We have a mask mandate for all staff, so it's mandatory now. That started last week, but not for members. It's just highly encouraged for members. We are not mandating vaccines, but again, we are doing a raffle. If you turn in your proof of vaccine by the middle of or end of September, we're doing a drawing. 3 people will win $1,000.
And Kevin, did the FDA approval has that come up at all in your leadership?
No, there are some of the senior team who have been sending out articles, with Texas Dow when they started mandating vaccines, and Credit Union and Virginia who started mandating vaccines, and we know of 2 in Florida that are going to mandate vaccines of all staff as well. So it's something that's we're talking about each meeting, but we haven't gotten to that point. Thus far, we've kind of taken the stance of everybody's an adult. We will highly recommend, but we won't mandate.
Hey,
But we'll
Kevin,
see. That could change.
Yeah, just a quick question too, just off the cuff. Is there any concern about being robbed or anything or fraud regarding the masks?
Well, we did a mask mandate last year when this all happened in June. So was it a discussion when we did that mask mandate because we had it for members as well? If they wanted to come in, they had to do it, and only by appointment. Yeah, it came up, but we felt like from a health perspective, we needed to do it to help keep our staff protected. Members who absolutely 100% did not want to wear it, they could just go through the drive-through and perform all transactions there. Anything that they couldn't get done there, we had other methods. And then in extreme cases, we were bringing somebody in, again, under an appointment. So we aren't super concerned, but again, we're not forcing members right now. For members, it's still highly recommended. Once we changed that, we removed the mask mandates for members around May, when things had cooled down. And then, again, we brought all staff back to our headquarters in July, and that hasn't really changed. So we've been highly recommend, but not enforcing since things started to pick up. And then for staff, we changed that to mandatory masks, like I said, last week.
Gotcha. And
really, we did that because we had so many infections internally that started once we brought staff back. And again, I want to make it clear, we have zero proof that any employee has ever contracted the virus through work. Every one of the staff members who've contracted the virus thus far has let us know it's been through activities outside of the office. And we have things in place to help mitigate. But we started doing masks because even people who had the vaccine were getting infected again, especially with this Delta variant. Now, they don't tell you which variant you have when you test positive, so I can't say it's because of the Delta variant. I can just say that we've had an unusually high number of infections, even non-vaccinated people.
Wow. Are you still quarantined yourself?
No, Tuesday was my first day back.
Oh, awesome. And just quickly, so we had someone in the comments, she had to go, but she was mentioning that that they have mandated masks for members and staff in line with the governor order in Oregon. She said the Delta variant is bad. We're seeing breakthrough cases, and employees, they've had 4. Last I talked to you, you were at like 6 or 7. Has that changed?
Yeah. We had 7. We've had a few more, but I haven't gotten the numbers back to see if they were vaccinated or not. If they were, then that number is obviously higher. Yeah.
And you and I were talking because we're both kind of stats guys, that it was really bothersome to us that we couldn't quite figure out why we're being told that the breakthrough infection rate is so that it would be something that wasn't all that prevalent, but yet we're 7. This one just said 4. I'd love for everybody on the call who has any numbers for their credit unions or knows, even if you know someone that's had a breakthrough infection, just to put it in the chat, because I'd be interested to see, because my math is not adding up for this, for it being to be this very, very rare thing. It just does not make sense. And I think you were agreeing with me, Kevin. We both were confused by it. So yeah, if everybody could put those in, I'd be very interested. Just, if you know.
Was Kevin the one who talked about the breakthroughs 2 weeks ago at his?
Yeah, and he's now said they have more. Yeah,
that was Kevin. Okay, yeah, wow.
Yeah. He said they have more. Even more. He was just mentioning, and Rachel, she's with a credit union in Oregon. She just mentioned they have 4. So yeah, let's find out. Gary. So your governor's mandated the masks everywhere? You're back to mask mandates. True.
Correct. Yeah.
Where's your mask,
Rachel's-
Gary? You're gonna have to
Rachel's
leave.
correct. It
Have
was, I
someone
think,
escort Gary off the show. He's not wearing his mask.
I'm in a huge room. Nobody's in
Okay,
here.
okay, you're fair. It's fair. It's just you.
Just me by myself. She's right. I think it was Friday of last week. It went back into effect where everybody indoors must wear a mask.
So the question is, in a place like Oregon, Mike and Gary and everyone else, where the governor is mandated, it's a little easier to sort of make this work, right? It's the difficulty becomes when it's a free for all where, in Florida, for instance, where Kevin is challenged by, or not challenged, but if they decided to do a mask mandate for members, it certainly would be difficult to enforce given the governor's stance. And the same thing I said in Arizona. But you guys, this is old hat. Go ahead, Kevin. I see you pop back up.
Challenged is 100% the right term to use, because when we did have it mandated and our governor did come out, we did get challenged by members on a regular basis, and we just highlighted. It's interesting that the notes that we put out on our doors, very similar to the approach that Starbucks and Publix took, was that while the governor is stating that you won't need this, we as a business have the right to request this. And so we had to highlight that fact all over the place. And the governor actually had to come out and make another statement because it was causing problems. But I mean, we certainly had members who just still continued to say no. The problem is it became politicized. So it has nothing to do with health and safety. It just turned into this whole political argument, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you being forthright. I'm trying to be somewhat, unfortunately, I'm politicizing it by trying to be politically correct about it. But I know there are those who feel differently, and I know that feel the other way. It seems like, I don't know. I often equate it with underwear. Like I prefer, I feel like it's very hard to get Mike, you remember when your kids were really young, it's really hard to get them to wear underwear. They're not into that to begin with.
Even now.
Even the diapers, right? And so, eventually you can get them to wear the underwear, but it's a struggle. You got to fight it. Like, hey, why can't I go to school in my birthday suit? That seems like fun. But we don't allow them to do that. So the mask just seems like one more decoration. There was a time you could come to work without a tie.
Yeah.
And that never turned into a politicized issue. I remember when I think to this day at Westcom, you may still have to wear a tie for all I know.
I remember my days at Scimitar, we had to wear ties back in the 90s.
I mean,
had to
it's
wear
just
ties.
as it is.
Yeah.
So Gary, with that mask mandate from the governor, so you guys put it back into effect, probably no issues, move along. Have you had any breakthroughs in your, go ahead, Gary, sorry.
We've had some employees that have been exposed. I don't know of any employees that have COVID. There could be, I'm just not aware. Mm-hmm. And what we did also is the mask mandates, like I say, from the governor, and then we rolled back to where to come into a branch, it has to be by appointment only. So that started this last Monday because they reintroduced the mask mandate again. So that's been going okay. We've got some resistance. Some members are, not happy about it, but we have virtual teller units at our ATM machines at almost all of our drive-ups. So we're encouraging members to use that. We have an app on the phone called Want to See You Now, where you can do a video chat. So we're encouraging members to do that. Phone calls, and some members are not happy with even the mask mandate being reintroduced, because it was like a month ago where it was lifted, and then now we moved backwards. So so that's the state of
and I think
where they're at right now.
I think there's two kinds of unhappiness, right? There's the first kind of unhappiness, which is, oh, this is back in place and I forgot, and I don't have a mask on me. I'm assuming you have some masks right there to hand out if you need to, the big box of paper ones that everybody can give. And then, or I got to run back to the car and I'm frustrated, or my kids won't wear them and I got to bring them in with me or whatever. But then there are those who are, as Kevin points out, philosophically / politically / culturally opposed to the concept. And those are the ones I have concerns about, because for whatever reason they tend to, on both sides of it, wear a mask. You can have someone get just as angry about that they should wear a mask as someone who doesn't wear a mask. I worry for the security and whatnot in the front trying to enforce this, because we saw it in the past, just people yelling at poor grocery store people who, they just all they want to do is load the apples and go home, and I don't blame them. That's kind of, everybody's day. And to sort of also have to be the police for people around is really difficult. So this is not a good situation. And Fauci even said that it's likely not to clear up till spring, and fall is going to be worse. And then they're talking, and this is the other slippery slope that I was interested in. Okay, so let's say that you mandate the vaccine, Gary. Let's say the governor comes out tomorrow and says, okay, employers have the right. I think employers have the right now to mandate based on what Melissa pulled up. But let's pretend Scott Earl mandates the vaccine. So Scott, you mandate it for all your employees, and now there's boosters, right? How are you going to mandate that? Because the boosters are based on when you got it to begin with, and how long it takes before you need to get the booster, right? So, and it also depends on which vaccine you got. Like, how in the world are we gonna, if that's gonna be our stance? How? And I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm just saying, how in the world? But I guess we've done it before, because I know there were boosters for like chicken pox and stuff. Like, I had to get a whole different chicken pox vaccine because it turns out like the strain that's in Germany isn't here, and I still wound up getting the chicken pox at 18 or 19. It was probably the most horrible I've been sick ever. But and that's really, really, really transmissive. I got it when I was working in elementary school. Surprise. But how would we possibly deal with the boosters if that's the case?
Well, and what do you do for people, that have a medical exemption? Their doctor says, advises them not to get it or whatever. Do you then have to make accommodations? So are they segregated? Do they work from home? There's all these different scenarios that, how do you can't just make a blanket statement and make it a requirement. I don't think, because it doesn't work that way.
Kevin, I see you on. Kevin unmuted. I can tell he's going to go ahead, Kevin.
So all that's been covered by the EOC, and so private industries, you can absolutely 100% require that your staff is vaccinated, and yes, you do need to make exceptions for religious as well as medical exceptions, so that they don't have to go through and do that. That has been established and cleared. So I know our attorney group looked at it. I know the league group has sent out information as well, and they are all in agreement that you can absolutely do this if you want. The issue is it is a slippery slope for some areas. So you will have staff that say, I will tell you our conversation about it. It went like this: should we make these mandatory? Some said yes, some said no. My first comment was, if it's yes, and I say I'm not interested in getting it, am I terminated? And if that answer is no, what are you doing mandating it in the first place? And if that answer is yes, are you prepared for the fallout potentially that could happen depending on the staff that you have? Some are going to say okay, and then some are not going to say okay. So again, in terms of can you make it mandatory legally? Yes, you can. That 100% has been cleared and validated. And yes, you do have to make exemptions for medical as well as religious belief.
So that's where I think the religious one is the slippery slope to me, Kevin, because I don't know how you confirm that one. The medical one is easy, right? Like somebody just said, my doctor said I shouldn't get it. Okay. So now you got something to hang your hat on.
There is no confirming religious, right? It's not, well, what religion are you, and show me where that would be. It's just,
right. You can't confirm it.
Have a religious. Right. So I'm just going to say that's fine, and I'm going to move on from there, which is again, to me, I'm totally fine with that. Now, anybody who doesn't want it, they're going to have that. It's just, what are your numbers, right? Are your numbers 90% vaccinated, 10% not? If that's the case, well, you've accomplished what you really set out to do, right? Because you were never going to get everybody anyway. And what you want is a super majority, because that's what protects it. But in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, rather than mandating it, there's a lot of things you can do to help get people to make that decision on their own without putting a gun to their head, right? So I don't want to have to say, get it or you're terminated unless you have these things. But what's wrong with me saying, I'm not going to make it mandatory, but if you choose not to and you get COVID and you're a back office employee, I don't have a laptop for you, because those are saved for employees who have the vaccine and unfortunately got a breakthrough. So you're going to have to use your vacation time or your sick time while you're off. There's nothing wrong with me mandating that. There's nothing wrong with me saying you're going to need to go and get tested on a weekly basis. And by the way, we're not going to cover that expense. You're going to have to cover that expense. Now, today it's free, but how long is that really going to last? I mean, sooner or later, the CVSs and Quests and everybody else are going to start charging the co-pays for this because, hey, the vaccine's been out for a long time now, so do we really need to allow this to go for free? When is the government subsidy going to end? And so if I had to pay for that on a weekly basis, might I then decide, hey, it's worth it for me to go through and do this?
Dude, if I just had to do it on a weekly, that nose thing hurts like heck. No, thanks. I'm with you.
Well, and depending on your area and what the level of outbreak is, the amount of time it takes to schedule it. I mean, for me right now to schedule, you're 5 days out to get to a CVS to get a test. It used to be the next day. Now, I will say you're getting the results within 24 hours, which is, and that's for everything. Like all those test results just seem to come through immediately now. But trying to get in to get a test is now taking forever because our infection rate in Florida, in my area, is so high.
Yeah, and I wonder if I love that concept of, okay, well, there can be consequences for not doing that. So I think that's interesting. I do believe, and the reason I was mentioning about the mandate is the religious is such an easy way out of, it doesn't matter whether you're religiously opposed to it or not. You can use that as sort of your methodology for, but I do think, yeah, there has to be other mechanisms to keep people safe. But then it ends up in another slippery slope. I can remember at organizations I worked at, we had Islamic people who wanted to wear had to wear their burqa and the various things and that didn't fit in with the dress code policy. And but they were always one-offs. It wasn't sort of this massive sort of across the board, that could be divisive to the credit union culture. But I love your ideas, Kevin. I always do, and I'm so glad that you take the time to share, because I think others are. Scott's got a great point, and a test and weekly testing, even if it was monthly testing, that would probably be the end for me, because they stick that thing so far up in your nose it comes out your eyes or your ears. I'm not interested anymore in being tested. That was horrible. That would be enough for me. I wouldn't even have to worry about the pay. I would just say, you win, I'm going to go get vaccinated. It's got to be better than this. Albert, you've been kind of bringing up some counterpoints here. And you said you had 3 breakthroughs. Albert, you work at A1 ATM, and you're often on, so welcome. It's always great to have you. And I appreciate that you're a vendor, but you bring to bear, you come in and you always share good things that aren't, salesy, I guess. And so that's why we love having you, and we appreciate your perspective. So how many employees do you guys have at A1 ATM?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, John. So right now we've got them scattered out kind of throughout the country in different offices and such, but within my office, we've got about 5. We have seen 3 breakthrough cases of those that have been vaccinated. And
in your office of 5?
No, not in this particular office.
Okay.
So this is just across the board. No, thankfully, I know that would be pretty crazy. Originally you mentioned about your friend kind of getting like offended about the email that stated that, hey, if you're vaccinated, you're good, you can come in. If not, you got to wear a mask. I guess, one of the reasons why, I'm not vaccinated. I've already had COVID, I don't know, I'm still, I guess, pretty young and stuff and could fight it based off of that. But I like the approach that many have taken, including Kevin and Scott. But going back to your friend, I mean, she probably got offended just thinking about that. Is, they're saying that if you've been vaccinated, you could still spread it. If you're not vaccinated, you can still spread it. So she's like, why am I the one that's got to wear the mask then if they who have been vaccinated can also still spread it? So I'm just thinking as maybe one of the things that she had, approaches that she had talked about. Rachel also mentioned in the comment section right towards the bottom that they are paying $300 now to every employee who has turned in a completed Vax card. I mean, that's a pretty good incentive. I mean, I would think, especially those that have kind of been on the fence and it's like, no. And then it's like $300. I mean, right now it's like, maybe that's worth it. But I guess a question I would throw out there is Pfizer, who we're talking about right now, who recently just got the FDA approval, as we all know, they've already said, hey, we have no liability whatsoever. So I guess a question I would ask, and then I would just make one more point, is that is a credit union who causes all of these or brings up these incentives, which I'm not against whatsoever, but is there any fear that an employee who gets a vaccination, has a side effect, gets Bell's palsy or one of the smaller side effects that may happen, small cases, is there any liability on the credit union side then for saying, well, they said I had to because I was going to lose my job if not? Or I'm curious about that if you know anything, John, or Melissa. I know she keeps writing in here. And then lastly, and I'll shut this off real fast, you mentioned TrueFace. Have you heard of PIM Eyes?
Yeah, actually, I was going to mention that too. It's exactly the one I was going to mention, which you can upload your own picture and it'll find. And I'm doing that with Mike Lawson a little later today. I have so many pictures of Mike Lawson. So yeah, I'm going to run that job. Are you going to show it?
Yeah, so I am going to show this. So I took a screenshot of you real fast. Are you able to see the screen? All right, so I took the screenshot of just you just to see if it would work. And I ran it through PIM Eyes. I was just reading this. This is what Melissa had sent us. But sure enough, you take a look and it shows every site that you're in.
Yep.
All the different images, all the different looks. It's crazy. I mean, it'll go back. It'll look at, Big FinTech, CU Insights. I mean, some of these sites I've never even heard of. But yeah, very, very interesting and potentially, I guess, very scary, I guess, at some point also.
Yeah. It's got a zillion pictures in there, and they were using it to find, which I thought was a good use of the technology, was missing people. This particular lady for 911, where they're not sure if she just disappeared. But yeah, PIM Eyes is actually the other one I was going to post. I was going to, it's fascinating. So I haven't done myself yet. I was going to, because you're supposed to put a bunch in. But yeah, I'm sure there's
one, and it was kind of blocking your eyes with the glasses. But that's the last thing I want to say. You're always doing great stuff, and I love just coming in here and seeing what else the other credit unions are dealing with. And I will say, as a vendor, we have started seeing other companies, not credit unions or FIs yet, that won't even allow us on site anymore unless our staff has been vaccinated, or we can provide them proof of an actual negative test within 2 to 3 days too. So we are already starting to see that as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's
going to be common.
I think this is just not something we needed right now. And I know, ATMs are physically on site and present at 100% of the branches. I know of no branch anymore that doesn't have at least one ATM in it. Get it, A1 ATM. So yeah, I think it's fascinating. Your point about the litigation, yeah, we'll have to look into that. I would say, getting Bell's palsy or something like that. If the FDA is approving it, then at some point, I think that does help probably with indemnification for that. But here's a question I have for you. Has anybody been able to go in and go, I'd like to get vaccinated and I want to choose my vaccine? I don't know that you can. I mean, I couldn't do that. Oh, you did, Mike?
I did. I went, you can go, at least out here, you can go where there are vaccination facilities, like whether it's CVS, your doctor's office or whatever, and you can see which vaccines they're admitting or administering. And so I went, I want that one. And I went to that CVS or went to that doctor's office, and my wife did the same thing. So in a sense, you can choose which one you want. At least out here, I just went, oh, I don't want that one. I want that one. So I just went to that place that was handing them out.
That would be the next argument. That's the next thing I could see coming up is the efficacy ratio of the various vaccines, and then going, okay, well, we just found out that the new variant just walks over Pfizer, but Moderna beats it up, and Johnson & Johnson just makes it so that you spread it twice as fast. And so, I mean, we're in a mess.
It is.
And the Pfizer guy talking about there being a vaccine resistant strain here shortly. Because and I think Kevin made the good point of, well, they don't tell you whether it's Delta, but right now the Delta strain is the 93% of the infection. So I think you can assume, and probably the others that aren't are either that Delta plus or the Lambda.
Epsilon and Lambda, yeah.
Yeah, the what was the name of that movie? God, now I've lost it. Revenge of the Nerds, Lambda 3. That's what I'm calling it. Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, Delta.
Well, we're right at 3 minutes here, Mike. Mike, do you have anything coming up where you're going to talk about this at all? You said you reached out to Michigan. Are you planning on trying to
actually reached out to Texas, the credit union Texas, and they said they weren't talking about it at this time. So I don't know if they wanted to stir up.
Are you going to be all journalists and reach out to the dude at Michigan?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I'm going to. Yeah, I would love to have them on and
invite them on the show. Tell them, is there, no wrong answers here. We just want to understand.
Exactly.
Because everybody needs the info. Maybe he knows something we don't. Maybe there's a band of people planning on robbing credit unions using the mask as a background in that city or something.
We actually early on we had Todd Sheffield from, I think it was Community First or Community One, where they were using the correlations technology where you could wear your mask, but you'd show your driver's license and then they would ID you that way. And so
member pass is another good.
Exactly. Member pass as well. So there's your workarounds.
Yeah. I mean, that's the workaround for identification, but it's not the workaround for being philosophically opposed to the idea of wearing a mask. And I think for a lot, it represents sort of the losses that we've experienced in the last, year and a half around the economy. And I think there's something there that sort of in their mind trumps or can trump other issues, and we've heard that before. The cure can't be worse than the virus itself. But I don't know that it's funny because all these breakthrough cases in Delta really permeating. We've seen the vaccine thing kind of pop up quite a bit. More people are getting them.
Yeah.
But I love and applaud the $300 per. I would say make it the cost of a new, or just give them an iPhone. Say you get a free iPhone 12 Max. 128 gig, but only in pink. Only in the rose gold. It is. You only get it in the rose gold. But
have you seen
unless you get Johnson & Johnson, and if you get Johnson & Johnson, then you get like a Huawei flip phone from 1988. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I appreciate, as always, another great town hall. I'm sorry, Scott, if we didn't help you get any answers, but we hope you'll come back. You're always welcome here. Everyone is, and the only way we'll figure out this stuff, the only hope we have is together.
Yeah,
and so
share the information
and to share those opportunities. So Mike, I can't thank you enough, and
thank you.
We'll be back next week to talk more. I'm actually going out to Arizona to visit True West, great credit union out.
Oh yeah, good people.
I'm going out to Tucson for their offsite meeting to work with their board, and I'll be interested to get some feedback there. And we get a chance, take a look at this new PNC feature called Low. I think it's, let me look it up here. It's PNC Bank just came out with this thing something that Kevin Sarber and I have been talking about forever. It's called Low Cash Mode. And basically it gives you a chance to get out of a overdraft. And so overdrafts are another big topic we need to keep an eye on. And I thought this was fascinating. I'll put the link in here, but take a look at this. Seems to me like a big time credit union feature. Well, yeah, check it out. And with that, as always, we can't thank everyone enough for taking an hour out of their week to come join us. We'll continue to do these as long as you guys will show up, and the people that contribute, and all of you do, even just by being here. We're super thankful for you. So
indeed.
Mike, I'll be checking out your NCIS fraud criminal minds version of the CU broadcast.
That was a fun one. Yeah. I highly recommend
it. If they're catching serial killers, I'm in. I want to see what
got that
right.
right.
So. All right, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Well done.